Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
In this episode, Go Big or Go Home is with Kieran James. What you learn, providing financial clarity, leading a deliberate life, and it's okay to reroute to your destination.
Kieran is a husband, father of two, amateur athlete, relentless reader, and has a passion for education, particularly financial. He is Managing Director of Accountancy and training firm Stryde, whose aim is to provide financial clarity to the franchise sector through services such as business plan creation, financial training, accountancy, and supporting the automation of financial processes. He is also the non-executive director of the Children's Activities Association, a not-for-profit organisation that helps parents, schools, nurseries and children's activities providers to raise the standards of children's activity provision. So thank you ever so much for joining us today, Kieran. So how is it that you find yourself here with us today?
Good question. Well, there's this random lady who came and asked me to be on a podcast for her. Don't know where that came from, but somehow. No, because obviously I've been working in the same awesome office space as Michelle. It's a great collaboration space, that was Hub, and it's just allowed these kind of collaborations to happen. So this is one of many collaborations.
Awesome. So talk to us about your journey to getting into this awesome collaboration space.
Okay, so when I was younger, I tried to play professional football, and I put quite a lot of effort and energy into doing that. Didn't quite make it. Played a little bit semi-pro, but didn't quite make playing professional football. And so everything I did about me was all about sport and science and exercise. A lot of that covered things like psychology, things like how to train and learn efficiently. And then I, through a series of things, ended up becoming a trainer and teaching accountancy, and then got brought into a business to head it up, which is Stryde.
Excellent.
And I think along the way, what's happened is it's gone from being very much me coming in to support an existing investor in the business to being my business, about what I would like it to be, and more about me and my values and visions and things like that. And that's happened probably after about 9 months in the business. It turned into that. So that 9 month phase happened as I joined the NatWest Hub. So it was a pivotal part for me moving into reviewing what the business meant for me and all that kind of stuff. And that's why now we do the same with other people and review what their business means for them, particularly from a financial aspect.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're not from around here, are you, Kieran?
What gives that away?
I don't know.
No, so I've lived in several places. I grew up in Bristol till I was about 10, and then Devon till I was about 18, and then I jet setted all the way up to York for university, and then I followed a woman and ended up in Newcastle.
It's a familiar story, isn't it?
I think it is.
Excellent. So
What did you study at university? I presume it was something linked to accountancy.
That's a really good point. You'd expect so, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Ooh,
No.
plot twist.
So I studied sports science because at the time I was trying to play professional football. Ironically, it's probably one of the greatest things I did to help me with accountancy, because what it does is it's, crunching numbers is one element of an accountant's role. Another element is helping businesses to grow their business, which means you've got to understand about mindset, you've got to understand about how people learn, and as an accountant there's a lot of complex stuff that you have to be able to simplify or make relevant to the person you're talking to. So actually the whole learning how to train and teach people has helped both me and also me train my team of everyone in my team's either a teacher or trainer. So they've all kind of gone through that process to then go and be able to explain that complex information in a simple way.
Okay, so how did you? What was that leap between professional football and accountancy? How did that happen?
Okay. I think, when you put your identity into one thing, it gets quite tough because you've put everything into that. You expect it, you live it, you breathe it, you own it. So that was the football bit. And then I got to a point where I suppose I had a realization that I'd kind of started the whole process a little bit too late, and it wasn't going to be the future for me. So I had to figure out what was going to happen next. I came out of university, and my wife went, well, then my then girlfriend went, I'm going home, you can come if you want. Now, my family were in Devon, she was in Newcastle, so I went, all right, I'll follow you then. And then I landed in her parents' house. I had no money. I had £1,250 overdraft, and I had about £4.94 at the bottom of it. And then I said, are you sure it's okay for me to come and stay with them? Because it's going to be like 6 months before I can get out of this and get a job and do this. She's like, yeah, that'll be absolutely fine. Are you sure it's going to be okay? Yeah, it'll be fine. Have you asked them? Yeah, all sorted. And then about a week in, I walked past the front room. They're like, oh, Kieran, can I have a chat with you, please? And they said, so when are you leaving?
Oh my God.
So that was a bit awkward. It just so happened that was the winter when it was about 3 months of snow in the northeast non-stop, and so I remember, things like my trainers were outside in the garden in a box because my job I decided to do, because it was the only job I could get at the time, was a door-to-door sales job straight out of university, and. So obviously I walked a lot, and that has its repercussions on your trainers and shoes or things like that. So they all got put outside, and I remember having to scour through a foot of snow to try and get to my trainers each day, things like that. But yeah, no, it was a good period though. It definitely builds relationships with your in-laws, that's for sure. So luckily they were really good about it, and we've actually since been back there again. So they obviously it wasn't too bad for them. So yeah, did some door-to-door sales. That led me into doing some sales at Sage.
Okay.
And then alongside all of this, I did a lot of coaching, particularly football and other sports. I thought I wanted to get into doing some training. So I ended up becoming a trainer for Sage and teaching accountants how to use accountancy software. And then a big switch came in called automatic enrolment and pensions. And I ended up traveling around the country talking to businesses about what that was and what that meant. And I talked alongside the pensions regulator and sometimes HMRC around that. And then ended up setting up a training department for a tech startup. So I got headhunted for that a little while after, because for the training knowledge I had, and then that led me from there into what is now Stryde. So very training focused entry into it. So
it's not a usual path from the managing director of an accountancy firm, is it?
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's probably more of a forced path from my perspective. When I moved I have to have a goal to aim for or something to look towards. So it became running my own business about 2 years after I stopped playing football. I needed something to focus on. I'm quite an avid reader of different books. So it was natural, I think, to move from a very motivational environment of sport to a very motivational environment of business.
Okay. So I'm going to have to ask you the question now. What's been the biggest book, most life-changing book for you?
Oh, wow. Okay. That is a really big question. I've read a lot of books. Can I cheat? Can I give a couple?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I think from a business perspective, the most pivotal book for a startup business is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. I had a real stumbling block in my mental attitude, particularly because of the sporting environment, that I thought that if you changed your mind in business, you were a quitter. Whereas actually what the Lean Startup taught me is a constant test and measure process. Business isn't just about having an idea and then following it through no matter what. It's about working that out and working the kinks with the customers and what they want, and whether what you think is actually what they think.
Yeah.
So I say that from a business perspective.
Is that the build, measure, learn stuff?
It's a little bit like that. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then I think that from a personal perspective, actually, how to win friends and influence people.
Okay.
So growing up, I had a lot of unspent energy from what was then e-numbers, and I was quite energetic, which obviously lends itself quite well to doing sport because you have lots of energy. And I ended up changing my diet quite a lot when I was about 16. Read that book and it just changed the way I interacted with people. So I went from being somebody who was probably quite socially awkward. I was never not in the social environment. I was always quite energetic and alive in that space, but never quite empathizing with other people or kind of connecting well. And that How to Win Friends and Influence People just taught me to basically listen to other people, ask them about them and what they're interested in, and spend more time doing that. So I remember coming home from college, and every day on the bus, to try and develop my skills with dealing with people, I used to try and talk to random strangers on the bus and make conversation, just to get better at conversation and stuff like that. I think it's worked all right.
Yeah, we've had some nice chats.
We've had some one or two.
One thing I was wondering about, the professional footballer, if that is a dream and a goal, and it's a real passion, so you mentioned there was a 2-year period from, I suppose, the realization that I'm not going to be making 50 grand a week playing for, what would your team be?
To be honest, you'd have to aim at the top, wouldn't you? You'd want to play for England, wouldn't you? If you had a choice.
Yep. Would you have what's your favourite club?
Bristol City.
Of course.
Home ground.
So I'm digressing, but so what's quite hard is if you've got a dream and a passion, I'm going to be a professional football player, and then all of a sudden the foundation falls from beneath you because actually I realise I'm not going to make it. What did you find that as an experience? 'Cause if it's taken 2 years and that process of actually, what's the term I'm looking for? It's not recalibrating, but it's trying to find the next vision or the next purpose or the next passion.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It was really tough at the beginning, because it's, you devote your every moment to that. I was teetotal. I did, everything I ate went towards that. The exercise I did. The irony of all of that is, although I was very, very focused and organised and dedicated, probably looking back, there could have been better ways of doing it, more efficient ways of working to get a better result at the end of it. So I suppose what it did at first, it was quite, challenged my identity, who I was, what I stood for. But over time, basically what it became was my learning of how to make sure that you've got a wider viewpoint on the things you do, not just single track focus, and you're thinking about the other interactions of life and the other areas that affect that, but also around what it really takes to achieve your goals, what focus and organisation needs to happen to actually achieve them. And it's I suppose it kind of leads on to what I do now with some of the coaching stuff I do around businesses, in around how, I can see how not to do it. I suppose I see what it takes to actually make it work, which is quite, you need to be quite organised, very organised.
Okay, so you mentioned coaching businesses. So that's not a normal service for an accountancy firm. So do you want to talk us through that stuff?
Sure, yeah. So obviously the accountancy profession is changing a lot at the moment, and everything's going digital. In April now we've got making tax digital that's just come in, and so businesses are having to use digital technology. But as accountants, I think that a lot of the accounting stuff is going to stay, but a lot of the kind of data entry stuff is slowly being automated and eroded away. Now, there will always be a need for accountants because, nobody can have that level of knowledge of tax and things like that. But I think what it does is it pushes accountants to add more value to customers in other ways. And I think one of those ways is that, we see businesses every moment of every day. We're looking at their finances, we're looking at their decisions, we're looking at what works and what doesn't work. So we are at the forefront of what makes businesses tick. Therefore, it makes sense for us to be able to help our clients with, okay, based on what we've seen, is that the kind of thing that might work or might not work? And ironically, the coaching bit is a little bit of a personal thing as well. So there's two parts. So there's one is the business and how the business works, but actually a lot of what happens in business is great, but there's a personal aspect to business. They're very intertwined, your personal and your business life. I listened to an entrepreneur once who said he just sold his business somewhere around 80 or 100 million pounds. And he said, he talked about his challenges, his struggles, his ups, his downs, and you couldn't help but be super sort of inspired and captivated by this person. And they said, my only regret is not spending enough time with my family. I thought, wow, you spent 60 years growing a business to sell it, and your biggest regret is probably the most important thing.
Mm.
And so it's about helping business leaders also have that focus. And I think I have a particular viewpoint of that, coming from the fact of I've tried to do something, realised I haven't been able to quite make it in that process. And I think that's actually given me that viewpoint of looking wider in terms of what's important, and not building my identity around one very specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
So it seems like that, I guess, being at more the numbers end and seeing what's happening with the business than the personal aspect of, because often it's, just as you said, I like that term, intertwined, helping others to realise, do you think that when you're working in or on your business, you almost need that third party that can come in to, it's not that you've got blinkers on, but that because you're so much involved, you don't always take a step back or rise above the day-to-day to actually see a bit more clarity of where we're actually steering the ship to. Is there, do you think that's something you provide?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously it depends. We have different service levels. Different customers choose different degrees of support. But yeah, there's definitely an element of that in each area, and we do aim to do that. I guess a good analogy of why this is important, or maybe the link between the two, is this. So I was speaking to a business owner who was about 2 years into her business, and she was struggling with her kind of finances, cash flow forecasting, and asked for a little bit of help.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down and we went through looking at it, and she showed me some of her pricing structure and her business model, and I said, what are you trying to achieve personally and from this? And she talked me through it, and then all we had to do was look 3, 5 and 10 years ahead, plan out her kind of what she expected in terms of growth rate, in terms of pricing, everything that she was going to do. We worked it out, and then we looked at what her lifestyle would have to be like at that point in time, how many staff she could afford to have on, what her lifestyle would be, and it turned out it was absolutely nothing like what she actually wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So although it's the finances in your business, particularly as a key business owner or an owner operator,
Mm-hmm.
your finances in your business will directly relate to what happens in your personal life, the time you have to go on holiday with your family, time and money. So the time you have to go on holiday, the money you have to go on holiday, whether you're going to get to spend time with your kids, whether you're going to be able to be healthy and do fitness and exercise and stuff on the side, all these sorts of things which we know are really, really important, possibly more important. Can I say that? Than business. So the business bit is really a means to an end for all of us, isn't it, at the end of the day? So it's about, how do you look at numbers in your business and go, right, is this doing what I need it to do now? And looking forward, can it do what it needs to do to give me the lifestyle I want to have, but also support the people I need to support, i.e. staff, family, customers, whatever it needs to be.
So is that the starting point? You're starting with, here's the goal in mind, here's my exit strategy, here's what lifestyle I want to have, and then do you steer the business accordingly?
I think it has to be. I think sometimes the exit strategy, that particular term can be misconstrued, because an exit strategy doesn't mean you have to actually exit.
Yeah,
it could be that it's a lifestyle business that at the end of it you're still working in the business. I love business. I love the creativity of business. Therefore, I can't see myself ever truly sort of retiring as such. But I love the idea of mini retirements throughout life and just sort of making life work well for you. I've travelled around the world already with my wife, and hopefully we'll do the same with the kids. So it's about setting it up so that you can have that kind of lifestyle that you need without having to wait for 60 years till you retire, or wait till you hope somebody will pay the price you want them to pay for your business. Although that could be an option for you. It's about picking what's important.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you help a specific niche of people, I suppose. It's franchisees, franchisors, and small businesses. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So why did you go down those routes?
That's a good question. Actually, initially, it was because we tried to go down as a business down a different route, actually. We tried to go down the contractor route when we first started. The aim was find a market that we can get to quite quickly, go in bulk, move the business forward quickly, all part of that kind of being deliberate process. Found out we were probably sending the wrong product to the wrong customer at the wrong time with the wrong price. But other than that, we had it all right. And then we thought, well, okay, we need to relook at this. We went about 9 months and it wasn't really working how we wanted it to. We happened to take on a customer who was a franchise. I thought, this looks like it could work for us, and just explored it from there, really. So it was mainly about as a small business, you only have so much money you can put into marketing. You only have so much money and time and effort you can put into developing your products and services and catering for your clients. So it makes sense to look niche and go, okay, we'll put money into a certain place for networking or branding or whatever it is to focus on a niche environment, but also we'll put we'll design our services around that so that we're slightly different in that aspect. I.e., we do a lot of business plans with franchise businesses when they're looking to get finance to start a franchise, or we do a lot of training on business acumen when a franchisee first starts to help them to go from perhaps maybe having worked in a job previously to then know what it means to run a business and kickstart straight away. Whereas a lot of in the small business world, although we do provide a little bit of that, that's a little bit less common to have in that world. But in a franchise business, you need to start straight away and move quickly.
Because there are obviously associated costs, perhaps monthly fees as associated with being a franchisee.
Exactly.
So you've really got to you can't sort of take 3 or 4 months to live the good life and
find yourself.
Yes.
In some ways, it's probably a bigger decision for a lot of people than buying a house. Buying a house can be quite expensive, but actually, the decisions you make around if you buy a franchise could actually be whether you can buy your next house or whether you need to downsize or things like that. So actually, it could be even a bigger decision than that.
Okay, and you go around sort of helping and speaking in franchise kind of circles, I think. Is that something else
right.
you do?
Yeah.
So the speaking aspect of things, Kieran, is that something that you want to get more of, or is that for fun or for business development?
Yeah, do you know what it is? I absolutely love speaking. Just in general, but particularly, one of my passions is I get a bit of a buzz out of watching people kind of have that moment of realization, that moment where they kind of go, aha. And I think from it's great in the financial aspect to be able to talk about that, but that's why the personal stuff's come in a little bit as well, because it's my personal sort of why or statement I use is I want to encourage individuals to lead deliberate lives so they can be happier and more fulfilled. And when I think about it, it makes my juices get flowing. When I help somebody do something that's more deliberate in their life, I feel happier in that and more fulfilled in that process myself. So yeah, I think particularly in sort of larger audiences where I can see it feels like the effect you're having can be a wider spread as well. I definitely like that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And the term deliberate, is that we're not just floating through life and seeing what happens. We're defining a point in the distance, taking action as a way of plotting a route to get there. Is that?
Yeah.
Or how would you describe it?
Yeah, I'd say it's about looking at every. So I have a coaching philosophy, the deliberate business philosophy, which is 2 parts. It's the personal part and the business part. In the personal part, it's about 7 key areas. So it's making sure that you have some sort of goal or idea of what your life needs to look like within your relationships, your finance, your career, your health and well-being, your fun and leisure, your spiritual and your personal development. And because all these areas will affect how you interact with your business. So from a franchisee's perspective, they'll affect whether they are going to listen to what the franchisers are saying or do their own thing, whether they're going to work hard that week or not. And it's the same for any person really. So that's at the personal level. And then at the business level, it's about that kind of what's called a balanced scorecard approach, which is basically that you're making sure that you understand not just your what happens in your finances, but are you driving forward towards goals in how you deal with your customers, your processes, your staff, your team, and your maybe even your innovation, what you're doing new. So it's looking at those and then setting in each of those areas having 4 key metrics for your goals. So it's like a car journey a little bit. So if you think back when you get your sat nav, so you're sat in your car. Now, the first thing you need to have is why you're doing what you're doing. So why is that goal in that area important? What's the reason behind that? The second thing is you need to know where your destination is, because you need to put that in your sat-nav so you know where to go. And you can't use the tools that are available to you if you don't actually have that destination. You don't have the details of where you're going to go. It's great having all the tools in your head, but if you don't actually know, how do you know what steps to take? But if you've used your sat-nav and you haven't got your current location, it doesn't really work, does it? So you need to also measure where you are right now. And only when you've got those first three can you then take your steps to get there, and that allows you to, hit the traffic lights and move around things, and or hit reroute and go alternative ways. And that's quite important, I think, in all of our goals, is not to be quite so rigid in that structure. It's being able to meander, but having those 4 points, I think, are really important. So I guess all of this is kind of the stuff that's come in from all my learnings over time that I've pulled together, and a lot of the reading that I've done. So I think that personally, I think every business owner should have goals in each of these areas, the life stuff and the business stuff, and that means that they'll make sure they don't miss or sacrifice something they didn't realise they shouldn't have sacrificed. Like
60 years in, realising that they should have spent some more time with their family.
Yeah, exactly. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. Because I suppose as well, if you know where you're starting, you can be further down the road. Just as I like the analogy of the sat nav, because you could take one path and realise, I've actually probably gone the wrong way. It might take a little bit longer, but I can still see a way to get back to where I'm actually going as the destination, based on my current position.
Exactly.
Great analogy.
I think one really interesting thing as well, I think some people get caught up and hung up on goals as well. They think that you have to always be moving towards something. But actually, that's not really the case. Sometimes you're quite happy with where you're at. Most of the time when I coach people, what we actually find is it's only normally their business where they really want to push stuff. And in most of the other categories, they're kind of going, I'm quite happy with what I've got right now. But the point is, there's a really good book, you'll know, Michelle, perhaps who this is by, called Grit. And it's...
Is it Duckworth?
That's the one, Angela, that's the one, yes. And it talks about what it takes to be a gritty person. And it goes in terms of, the people that achieve in business and work through things in life. But one of the things it mentions is what is the effect on the family. And there's no studies to say what the effect of a gritty person is on the family. As business leaders, we're gritty people. But how does that affect the people around us and the interactions we have? And I think that by going through that kind of checking mechanism of checking what am I doing in these areas, you can check what it's having on those things. And it's hard when you work very hard. It's hard on relationships. So I diarise in one day a week where me and my wife will have a date night. Some people say you should be more spontaneous, but I think it's quite important just to make sure, I think relationships take working. They need to be worked at. So that's one day a week where hopefully the phones are off, the kids are in bed, and we just focus on each other. And I think so sometimes that for me, that's a goal, having that happen once a week. So it's about, and I need to know my why, and my, the destination is once a week, and it's to maintain what we've got, and that kind of thing. So sometimes it's just about that. It's just about maintaining as well.
I know it's a difficult balance, isn't it, between sort of house, home, cleaning, washing, children, business, networking. How do you prioritise?
You're going to sacrifice something, aren't you? I think no matter
the dishes.
And I think probably a lot of people would agree with that. I think
folding laundry, actually.
Folding laundry. Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
I've got a bed that we put the laundry on, and we just deal with it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I think we did get a cleaner before we probably needed a cleaner. I think we, there's little things like my wife. I know that for her, she spends time with the kids a lot, so she needs to have stuff to do herself. Therefore, things like her health and fitness, she'll go and do exercise classes. I need to meet. So at the beginning of the week, we need to diarise in when she can do exercise classes. So I think you can't do everything, but I think if you prioritize what is important to you, I think it gets a lot easier. I think that you have to almost be prepared of what do you sacrifice as well. You have to kind of know what you're sacrificing.
It's like the cost, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you no matter what we do, every decision we make, one decision is going to move us forward one place, but something else is going to be sacrificed because you're not doing that in that moment. Yep. So it's I think being organised and chunking is quite useful because you can for example, on the way here, while I was travelling here, I was using public transport today, and I was doing some French because I'm teaching myself French at the moment.
Très bien.
Merci. So that's something I've been trying to do for a while. I decided this year I was going to actually give it a go properly. Equally, you have to, like I say, book time in for exercise and things like that. So what is so there's amount you can do too much almost, and it can affect other things. Hence why the first things I'm blocking are my wife's time with the kids. I try and be home for 5:30 and put them to bed every day where possible. And I think that's quite, having that focus of phones away, focus on the kids, have that at least is preventing that whole I'm going to regret not spending enough time with them. Who knows? You may still end up regretting not spending enough time with them because you didn't realise, but at least you've done everything in your power at that point with the best of your knowledge to make that point. And I think that's kind of the philosophy that I take is you're trying to do. We're all trying to do the best we can. So, but let's get deliberate about doing the best we can.
Oh, I like that. So, let's take it back to Stryde. So, what made you choose that name?
Do you know what? We had a lot of challenges trying to think of this name.
So what were you called before?
So before Stryde, we were called Paykeeper, because obviously financial business. And the idea behind Paykeeper was, well, we're helping you keep your pay. Okay, but I think we were getting lost a little bit in translation, and people thought we were a payroll company. Didn't realise kind of the breadth of what we do in terms of the accountancy, the coaching, and the training. So we thought we looked to rebrand to try and figure out what was more relevant to customers and clients. So we've rebranded obviously to Stryde, and it's I think it resonates with what we're trying to do more. I.e., we don't want to work with people that just want us to tick the compliance boxes, although that's very, very important. We work with businesses that maybe they're experiencing. They're not happy with what their current accountant has given them because their current accountant perhaps is just doing that bit and they want a bit more from that. And so we're trying to pitch drop into that space where people are going, okay, I need help with how do I move my business forward? How do I really understand my finances to make business decisions and that kind of process? So Stryde is about taking steps forward in a direction. And we've deliberately spelt it with a Y instead of an I, so that it talks about sort of, why is at the core of what we do. So it's all about the why behind it.
That's excellent. I think that's it's not really something I've ever considered. The more we sort of discuss these things, you mentioned the compliance elements, and I think sometimes in business there's a risk, not even just for small businesses. I've seen it a lot in corporates, where you do all the things that are compliance related, or right, I've ticked off my health and safety elements, the accounting bits are done, the environmental ISO standards, right, we've done all that. But then the part which is potentially going to make most difference to the business, what we've discussed, the intertwining with the personal life, is overlooked. And I don't know that I've ever really seen that from an accountant you can have that element of combined coaching and steering the direction of the business. So I think that sounds quite, dare I say, revolutionary. I don't know. Maybe. Why not? I've not seen it. So
I think when you actually think about it, because it's all kind of linked together, isn't it? It's almost a wonder why it hasn't happened so far. Because I'm sure there are some accountancy firms out there that also do it, but we don't know of any. But I'm sure there are some that do as well. But it's little things like we get asked to do a cash flow forecast for somebody, okay? Which at first point you think, okay, that's completely financial. Okay, well for that to be realistic, we have to figure out what your sales figures are going to be. Okay, so to know your sales figures, we have to know what your average order value is, or what you think you're going to get from leads and customers, which means we probably need to know your conversion rates from marketing, and we probably need to go into a lot more detail in and around, if we know your average order value and your conversion rate, we can probably work out roughly what needs to happen. Okay, what's your lead source? How do you get that lead? Okay, and then how much work does it take to generate one of those leads, and what do you need to do that, and what cost does it have to do that? And all these things need to go into that cash flow forecast to actually be able to come up with something that's actually realistic. And so if you don't have that, you actually can't really do the financial bit. So I guess we're that's why there's the personal and the business, the two parts, because you as a business owner, these are the kind of metrics and KPIs you need to know to be able to understand your finances. And there's a lot of people that say, I'm not really very good with money, or I don't really know the finances very well. But actually, again, dare I say it, finances aren't that complex. The key thing is knowing the metrics that you're working to. So understanding, for example, that if you want to get 100 customers, you convert 1 in 10. Therefore, you're going to have to get 100 customers, you need 1,000 leads. Okay, how quickly can I get those leads? That type of stuff to grow your business. And suddenly you start making it more of a science than a kind of a luck or a by chance. But why do you need 100 customers? Where it comes down to the personal bit. Well,
Mhm.
100 customers means that I have, for example, I don't know, that makes me £100,000 turnover. Therefore, I know based on my expenses and costs involved in that, I can take home £40,000 a year, and that's what I want. Or it might be that you're trying to do a million. But whatever it is, there's going to be something that you need to take home, an amount of money that you need to take home you need to fit into your business model. Particularly if you're a sole owner operator. But if you've got a team, probably even more important around the time aspect, because you can spend a hell of a lot of time working in your business and doing the extra bits. So it's knowing when can you employ somebody, when can you do stuff yourself, and balancing it all out with your life goals as well. So
that makes lots of sense.
Do you ever find you mentioned about so not necessarily seeing there might be other accountants that do this, but not something I've seen. Often we meet people where you think, I've got this great idea, but surely somebody's thought of this. Surely an accountant's thought of actually using the cash flow forecasting or accountancy elements as my door opener to get in and add additional services, coaching, mentoring, whatever it may be. Did you have that kind of pondering, thinking someone must have done this, so I shouldn't do this because it should exist already, but actually you've discovered an opportunity?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, the irony of business is when somebody's doing something you're doing, you're probably going down the right track, and if nobody's doing what you're doing, you're probably not going down the right track. So competition is good, isn't it? So actually, I guess I expect other people are probably doing it as well, or some are, because otherwise it wouldn't be. We're not going to be the only ones. There's 32,000 accountants in the UK. There's going to be somebody else doing it. Yeah. But I think there's enough people that need an accountant out there in this area, that there's plenty of work, and it's working for us. So I think there's something to be said for having competition. I think it's quite important. It's good because I think it challenges businesses to be better and do more, and that gives the client a better experience as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's a proven market as well.
Precisely.
So what is the plan for Stryde? So what's the vision?
Well, the vision. Okay, so from a personal perspective, you talked earlier about the talking in public.
Yeah.
I'd love Stryde to be a vehicle for inspiring people to be more deliberate, particularly around the financial aspects of their business, educating, training, and teaching them how to be more confident in what they're doing in their finances and making business decisions. So I'd love that. Part of that is that I am talking in front of people. I do have a crazy goal, which is to talk in front of 10,000 people and motivate and inspire. From a business perspective, there's obviously I've got my own personal sort of lifestyle outcome I want to get from it, obviously. But I think that business can be a vehicle for its customers, but it's also a vehicle for its staff. And so, I want this to be a vehicle to help staff grow, develop, learn, and push themselves forward and expect more from life and all that kind of stuff as well. So I haven't got, in terms of like an exit strategy, it's not about kind of growing, selling, moving on. It's about creating a lifestyle that allows or creates an environment and a culture of growing people and watching them develop and be more deliberate, both from a career aspect, but also hopefully there'll be some personal stuff that comes in and around that as well.
No, perfect. So how many people have you got at the moment?
There's 5 of us in the team at the moment. Yeah, cool. And we're currently looking for more as well. So
that's exciting. And we're staying in Newcastle, or what's the plan?
That's a good question.
An office in Paris, or maybe not Paris. What about the south of France?
Learn to speak French.
South of France, somewhere like maybe not Nice, perhaps a bit further on the coast, La Vendue or somewhere like that. You can have a little office there, practice your French, go to the boulangerie every morning, bonjour monsieur, practice your French, and
we're just creating a vision for you.
Create a dream.
Sounds good.
When are we going?
I think initially we'll going to be focused on the UK initially. Sorry to put a damper on that, but Cornwall's all right. So we'll create. I think it depends on how technology moves, to be honest. So we're Newcastle based at the moment, and we will stay Newcastle based if technology keeps up with us. And what I mean by that is if the holographic calls are come into play quick enough for us to be able to do customer service with our holographic calls with our customers. So it's been released. Holographic calls have been done now with businesses. Currently, it's in sort of like development phase, and we'd love to be able to offer our customers. So I think it's really important that we want to be a big brand, but equally, it's so important for customers to feel that local connection with their accountant.
Mm.
So, and have that local feel. You know, some people just like just walking into their accountants,
Yes.
and we've got customers all over the place, particularly with this kind of the sector we're working in, the franchise sector. So it's quite important for us to be able to give emulate that local service at a national level. So I think that either we go down the route of technology, which if it comes in quick enough, which is the holographic calls, or if not, then we'll have basically pods of individuals around the UK that will be able to have that local service, but obviously a Newcastle-based head office. So
it's all a bit Star Trek, isn't it? Holographic calls.
Beat me up, Kieran.
Do you know what it is? There's so much technology out there now, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's I some really amazing stuff. Obviously people talk about VR and AR and AI and all these sorts of things, but actually there's a lot of stuff right on our doorstep that's happening right now. So Microsoft HoloLens glasses that you can do training, and people can do training programs with training courses through that, or through AR and things like that. So we could there's potential we could do a training through that. So nothing's in stone at the moment, but it's all it depends on which technology moves quick enough to match us. But we're going to be at the forefront of it, wherever it is.
That's so exciting.
We talked about the personal life in business. What do your children think about what Daddy does? Do you think that has an influence on how they view the world, or what they can go after?
I think at this stage it's probably a little bit early, but it's probably starting to influence. So I've got Jesse's 1.
Okay, so maybe a bit
20
young.
months, and Ruben is 4. So
Okay.
it's probably just about starting to get to that point. I don't know. Ruben's been on some videos with me on social media, so I've brought him on. He's definitely more of a showstopper than I am. He I might bring him more into my marketing, actually. If there wasn't some exploitation challenges in there, but he's
As long as you've got a statement on your website, you'll be fine.
No, he absolutely loves it. So come in and join me for videos. But I guess it's quite hard to explain to a kid what you do, actually. What do you do? I help people with their numbers. Like, well, I'm learning my numbers. Yeah, okay, but a little bit more complex numbers. But I think I don't think he really cares. I think kids really care, do they? They want time with you, and they want attention, and they want love, and I think I could do whatever I wanted to do, and as long as I spent time with him, he'd be okay with it. I think as he gets older, that'll change. But for now, I think just trying to give him time is the big challenge, isn't it? So
I know Oliver's desperate to come on and have a kids podcast.
that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Know.
Yeah.
I'll have to tee that one up.
Okay.
Got a few people interested, don't we?
Yeah.
Have you? One kid or multiple?
Yeah, kids interviewing other kids.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I think that would be great. I'm sure Ruben would love that as well.
I know. He's a natural showman, isn't he?
He is a natural showman. He is. Yeah. I don't know where he gets it from, to be honest. Yeah.
Could be our youngest guest so far. Inspiring the world at only 4 years old.
Oh, it's like that really, really cute little girl who sings with her dad.
Yes.
Have you seen her on YouTube? She's got like 4 million followers.
Wow.
Yeah. They sang one of the songs from The Greatest Showman, and it went like viral.
Crikey.
Yeah, she's adorable.
So there is one of the things I've sacrificed: knowing general knowledge, keeping up with everything.
Oh yeah. I sacrificed the news.
The news, yeah, that as well. Yeah,
It's too depressing.
Couldn't tell you what was going on now.
Okay, so if it's kind of we're starting to think about wrapping up, and so my favourite question is to ask people. If you could go back and talk, I know it was only weeks ago, but talk to 18-year-old Kieran, what would be the key piece of advice you would give him?
Oh, that's a really hard question, isn't it?
Because what point were you at 18? Is this where you know about what the footballing outcome is, or is this?
No, I was still
not quite
striving
there.
towards
Okay.
it. Yeah. I'm not sure there would be much I would have said. If
Just in case
anything,
of Back to the Future.
if anything, it would be. I think if anything, it would be go big or go home.
It's a good one.
We only get one chance, don't we? So, it's. I think one of the biggest. I haven't mentioned it today, but one of the biggest things that impacted me was a very close family member passing away, and what happened in that kind of as that was coming to the forefront, and what happened throughout that process. And it kind of shone home that people are the most important thing. So I'd say focus on everything. Don't just do football. Do look wider. Look at everything. And then then go big. Do it hard. Don't rest up.
Yeah, that's great.
That's very good. I was just reflecting there for a moment. When you get a profound statement, it's like, ooh, you sort of just sit and think about it yourself. But no, that makes sense. It's go big or go home.
I think that's probably the title of this podcast.
It's great just to come out as we're chatting, don't they?
Yeah, no, they do.
I can't claim copyright to that.
You can't trademark it, no.
No, I can't. No, unfortunately.
There's also the phrase of having a deliberate. Is it deliberate life or deliberate
Leading a deliberate life? Yeah.
Leading a deliberate life. I like that one as well.
Oh, we're going to have a fight about this one afterwards.
Be arm wrestle later or something.
Rock, paper, scissors.
It's when somebody pulls out dynamite, though, isn't it? You're like,
Breaking the rules.
Excellent. So thank you ever so much
Thanks,
for
Kieran.
coming in today. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they do so?
they can visit our website at www.stryde, that's with a y.co.uk.
Excellent. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.